beginnings, my parents were migrant workers. They became local business owners and fortunately have run their business for 38 years. So my whole life, I was born and raised in that entrepreneurial spirit. But what I like to see is I want people to know that, my experience is really similar to a lot of people and a lot of students in our school district. I kind of know where you've been. I can empathize, and I've sat in your shoes.
All right, we're here, Ef'n Sunny Show. This is Johnny Vasquez for F and Sunny. Sunny's still under the weather, or just, I don't know, he was doing too many bench presses or something, and Sunny's just like, he's on the injured reserve with Julian Edelman right now. So we're praying for him. We're hoping that he recovers, but in the meantime, I got some interesting guests lined up here, and we have one today for you. And that is none other than Lucy, and let me make sure I get this correct, the last name, Regalado.
Perfect,
Woo,
yep.
Man, cha-ching.
Just pronounce every single syllable.
I did, I know. I'm terrible with pronouncing names or whatnot. But anyway, thanks for coming in to the Ef'n Sunny Show. And, you're running for something that I think is probably one of the most important places you can be in any type of politics or, surrounding the community is you're running for McAllen School Board, Place 3 here in the area. So how and why would you do such a thing?
Well, thank you for asking. First of all, thank you for having me here. I agree. I think that the school board is definitely one of the most important places that we can make a difference because we really make those decisions that affect our future, right? Everything affecting our children. There's a lot of power there, and there's a lot of room to make a difference. And so, to answer your question more directly, why school board? I've always been really involved in the community, and when I took a look back over the last year, COVID really made us, I think, a lot of us reflect, right? What are we doing? How are we making a difference? What more can we do? And so over the last year, I really started to think about that and reflecting on what matters most to me. I think when you look at your time and where you spend your time, that's a real good marker of what makes what's important to you. So in doing so, well, I came to realize that everything that I do volunteerism wise has to do with kids. And so I've been really involved with the South Texas Literacy Coalition. I'm involved with Junior League of McAllen. And so our efforts there providing for and addressing the issues of food security here in the Rio Grande Valley. I also represent juveniles in the juvenile justice system. So everything, my passions really surround around our young and mentorship. So when it came to making a decision of how am I going to make a difference moving forward in the world, it was pretty clear to me that school board was going to be the right fit.
That's definitely the next step. I mean, it sounds like you've gone into all of these different directions and you have seen the development of children in different aspects. It's a very important thing because obviously it's the future. I hear you're also a product of McAllen as well. I am as well, and the man behind the mirror over there as well. So this is a very important topic for me because I have children as well, and I have kids that are of school age. A lot of concerned parents over the pandemic. You mentioned the pandemic. So tell me, how are you handling the pandemic yourself, and how are you hoping to help the school board in the future?
Well, I think that getting through this pandemic, we're kind of in that space of surviving, maybe not thriving, but we need to get there, right? I think the pandemic has really made us realize that we need to be really adaptable. We don't really know what's to come. And to answer your question, how am I doing during the pandemic? As well as we can, right? Certainly, there are times where the days are challenging, but that really makes me think about how our children are receiving that and how they're, going to have to work through that, especially when they start getting reacclimated to the classroom. I know some of our students have already been back in the classroom, but we're not at 100% yet. But I don't know about you, but in the social setting, once I had gotten the vaccine and I was able to get together with a couple of close friends of mine, even in that first little luncheon that we had, we kind of had to address the elephant in the room because we're all just kind of awkward. And we're like, let's just own the fact that we are a little uncomfortable and this is kind of weird, even with the closest of friends. So I think that socially and emotionally, there's a lot to overcome, right?
Absolutely.
And the kids are going to see that too. So, but I'm looking forward to, and I hope that I'll be able to bring a fresh perspective to the school board. I've seen a real lack of leadership in my demographic. And so I'm hoping that, that as we start to step forward and as more of us start to run for office or try to make a difference in other ways, that we'll be able to bridge that gap, because, we have a lot to learn from those that have been in public service so far. And we have a lot of new ideas. And the beauty is we're going to be in blending those together and finding a way to get us beyond this really uncertain time.
So, Lucy, tell me a little bit about your schooling, your background. I know we talked earlier and like we kind of joked about it, but tell me where did you? You're a lawyer, obviously, so you had some schooling. Tell me, where did you go?
A little bit of schooling, yeah. So actually, as I mentioned before, I am a product of McAllen ISD. I went to Garza Elementary, De Leon Middle School, Morris Middle School. Then we moved, and so of course I went through that traumatic, oh my God, I want to be with my friends. So then I went to Morris Middle School and graduated from McAllen Memorial in 2002. Oh, I just aged myself.
Oh my gosh, you're very young.
But
all right, that's 2002. Well, I mean, that's not too young. I mean, I'm 1999, so 2000. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Yes. Okay. So after high school, I went to Texas A&M and got my bachelor's degree in English there. And then I worked for a couple of years. I did some background investigations for as a contractor for the government, for the federal government. And then, that during that time, I was able to study for the bar, study for law school, the LSAT, prepare, and then went to law school there in Houston at South Texas College of Law.
Very cool, very cool. And, being, let's see, I'm going to do the math here. Let's see, if I'm going to be 40, you're very young though. So tell me, where do you have any kids? Do you have any in McAllen ISD school district, or are you planning on sending them to school, or do you have little ones?
If I did, they would be in McAllen ISD.
Oh.
But thank you for asking. That brings up a really important issue or point that and question that I get on the campaign trail. Where do your kids go to school? How's McAllen ISD doing for your children, right? But it's interesting because I actually don't have children. I've recently become an aunt, so I have a niece and 2 nephews. Okay. But that is a question I get, right? If you don't have children, or when I tell them that I don't have children, well, then why do you want to be on the school board? Well, I think that that's even more important because as somebody who doesn't have children, I do run a business here in McAllen. I have my own law practice. My parents have a small business. And so, I'm regularly involved in the hiring of people, right? And at the end of the day, who we have in our community, who we have working for us, or, adding and contributing to the community is really important, and education is important to all of those. So I think as a member in McAllen ISD, a member of the public and somebody in the community, a taxpayer, I think it's really important that we continue to build our future, to build the education and have a good education for everybody, regardless of if you're a parent or not. I think that should be important to all of us, and it's certainly important to me.
Tell me exactly what you're most proud of in your experience with working with children.
Oh, geez. That is a heavy question. In the different capacities that I've worked with them, it certainly is really heartwarming and fulfilling on a personal level when you are able to connect with children in the classroom and help them work through their literacy and engage them and make them want to become literate, right? Build that passion for reading and for knowledge in them. So those experiences through the South Texas Literacy Coalition, specifically with their Lawyers for Literacy program that I was involved in, that's always been a big feel good situation. But I've also helped out with the mock trial efforts down here, more on the judge end of it. And that's really energizing because it gives us the opportunity to see their potential. And I think oftentimes, especially over this pandemic year, so just a couple months ago, I was able to judge the mock trial rounds for this year. And, I kind of thought and wondered if that was going to even come to fruition, being that, it's really difficult to run programs like this with so many different moving pieces. But they did come together. They were able to do it via Zoom. It was very successful. And it's those kinds of snippets of seeing our future in action that really kind of re-energize us when we're going through, what we deal with, dealing with the day-to-day and the real world and the problems that we're facing. So I think that the most energizing thing and the most meaningful thing is being able to help and then see their product of their efforts come to fruition.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, literacy, that's an important thing here in the Valley. That's like it's one of those things that you don't really think about. There's different organizations down here. I know one of them, RGV Literacy Center, I think also. So a lot of the I guess education requires you to be able to read, right? So you have to be able to understand things. But more importantly, I think our children are kind of losing the battle or whatnot is that testing. Maybe some of the tests that are coming out, I'm not really sure if they're either helping or hurting the children. What are your thoughts on standardized testing?
Well, I think that there is certainly a measure of unfairness in it. However, I will say that one way I think we can overcome that is to really empower the students and teachers so that it's not just the only measure of success, right? Because, it's really hard to say on this one day you come in, we're going to test you on everything and that's going to make or break you, right? So I know that, obviously standardized testing is a necessary evil. We do need to have a measure to be able to measure that progress, right? We've got to have that tool. But I don't think that it should be the end all be all. And I think that we do need to certainly encourage and empower our teachers and our educators to be able to stray from just teaching to the test, which we hear a lot.
Very cool. What's your favorite subject?
My favorite subject was English, but specifically the writing part. Not necessarily because I really love to write, but it is, if you had to, put a gun to my head, I'm good at writing. So, it's just one of those things that was probably what got me through college. I had some really, really solid English teachers at Memorial High School, and I've always said, had it not been for them and being able to learn to write persuasively, I don't think I would have been as effective and as competitive in school.
So McAllen Memorial, I hear. Yes, I heard that. Shout out to all the English teachers over there, which probably hated me because I think I failed a couple of the English classes. But shout out, and God rest his soul. Did you have Mr. Hetrick?
I did have Mr. Hetrick.
God rest his soul. I saw him 2 weeks before he passed away, and he retired after 40 plus years. 40 plus years. Yeah. And tragically he passed away. So, but anyway, yeah, so that's cool. I had Mr. Hetrick too, one of my favorite English teachers. He never gave up on his students, that's for sure.
No, he did not.
That's the amazing thing about teachers. There's some teachers you never forget. And that's so important to remember those people that were that cared.
Exactly.
That's really what it was. And there were some teachers that didn't care, and unfortunately, I remember those teachers, but I'm not going to name them on the air today.
No, we'll give them a pass.
Yeah, we'll give them they didn't pass the standardized test. Anyway, well, I was taking a look at your Facebook. You have a Facebook page there, and I got to say, your father has an excellent voice for radio. I got to say, he said a couple of words there, and I was like, man, we should get that guy to do some voiceovers.
He was so not upset, but he was shocked, and he was like, man, this is not fair. I roped him into being in the video. The gentleman that did the video for us, he's like, we really should get, a family member in here. Let's get your dad, because he knew him through golf. He said, let's get your dad to come in. He can just be in it. He doesn't have to say anything. So I said, all right, Dad, you're just going to stand there. Just do what he says. I don't have to say anything, right? No, Dad, you don't have to say anything. Well, of course, once he's in the room, we flip the script.
Good for you.
But he did well.
He did really well. Actually, I was very impressed with the gentleman's voice. So yeah, anytime he needs some work, some voiceover work, you can send him our way. Tell us how people can find you on Facebook, how they can support your campaign, get some yard signs or whatever you have out there.
Sure. So on social media, on Facebook, you can find me at Lucia Regalado for McAllen ISD, Place 3. And I'm on social media. I didn't change my Instagram, but you can find me at Oola Lawyer. That's at OOLALAWYER. And all of that's linked, so you'll be able to find that. My office here is in McAllen. I'm right on the corner of McAllen Pecan. I'm next to the Collision Center. That's my family's business. We've been there for 38 years. So if you can't find me, you'll find them, and I'm next door. So we've got all the yard signs and materials out there available at the office anytime. And I've given out my cell phone number, like to make myself accessible. So you can also reach me at 956-607-5456.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Lucy.